What is home when the world keeps moving, when nothing really settles, and all we have are fleeting moments? For some, home is a place. But for Taehyung and Taekook, home is not a location, not a structure, not a label. Home is each other. Not built of bricks, but of a presence that is never asked for but always arrives. Of a language that is never taught but understood in silence. And here's the question. Why do we always need definitions to agree on a relationship? Why do we keep digging up labels so we can believe that something is real? After all, isn't reality born of consistency, of an existence that never fails? Taekook never said, "We are a couple." They never announced, "This is love." But look closer. See how Taehyung doesn't have to ask when Jungkook is silent. See how Jungkook searches for Taehyung in a crowd of thousands with a single glance. Does love have to be announced to be valid? Or is love, instead, the little things that keep happening even when no one is watching? This contemplation leads us to a deeper unease. Maybe we are wrong. Maybe a world obsessed with instant romance is incapable of accepting that there are relationships that grow slowly, not explosively, but deep and lasting. Relationships that do not require publicity but still endure through thousands of nights. We watch them on screen, at concerts, from documentary footage. But are we really just watching, or are we feeling it? Because if feelings are a universal language, then their bond is a complete sentence that needs no translation. There is no script, there is no acting, just two people walking side by side without ever really letting go. And if someone says this is just fan service, aren't we being too hasty in judging something we don't understand? Fan service doesn't understand the sincerity of eyes searching for each other amidst the hustle and bustle. Fan service can't fake hands that touch, not because the camera demands it, but because of the desire to protect. This argument is not to prove that they are a couple in the strict sense. Quite the opposite. It's an acknowledgement that human relationships can be more than the norm. That there are kinds of love that aren't romantic, but are more loyal than blood ties. And if we keep forcing everything to fit into the social constructs we understand, we'll lose many of the purest forms of love, like theirs. Taehyung once said, "Love doesn't always have to be romantic." It sounds simple, but it's actually revolutionary. It challenges the way the world works. And Jungkook calmly continues, "If I had to choose one person who understands me the most, it would be her." How could these two sentences not be considered a promise? A confession more honest than 1,000 love confessions in movies. They don't need a statement because their presence with each other is the most complete proof. So when the world asks, what exactly is their relationship? The answer isn't couples or friends. The answer is, they are home. Not a home built by logic, but a home formed by the courage to stay, even when the world keeps pushing them to leave. And if that's not love, then maybe we should change the way we define love. But perhaps this is the most honest part of their story, that love doesn't always have to move forward like an arrow. Sometimes love just wants to stay in the same place, repeating, returning, echoing in unchanging form. Because what is eternal needs no transformation to survive. We live in an age that worships clarity, where people rush to conclusions, labels, judgments, as if everything should be neatly arranged in a box that the public can read. But Taekook? They are willful illegibility. They cannot be mapped. Because they never try to be a story that can be understood. They are simply truths that must be felt. And here we come to a tension. On the one hand, humans have an innate urge to understand what they witness. On the other, there is a kind of beauty that comes from not being understood. Taekook is that beauty. Inexplicable, but too powerful to ignore. There is a kind of courage in their silence, a decision not to defend themselves, not to prove anything to anyone. They do not correct assumptions, neither confirm nor deny. For them, perhaps love is not about declaring, but about accompanying. They let the world speak, but they themselves remain silent. Because sometimes, only people who truly know the feeling of loss, that understands the preciousness of an existence that does not leave. People often think that love must be full of turmoil, full of drama, full of great sacrifice. In fact, it is precisely in the silence and continuity that the purest love is rooted. Taekook do not explode, do not burn brightly. They burn small, constant, almost invisible, but never extinguished. And perhaps that is the most challenging thing for the world. To accept that there is love that is not created to be consumed. Love that is not a spectacle, but an inner experience. Love that is not offered, but found, by those patient enough to observe, not just watch. Just imagine how quiet existence would be if we always demanded love to explain itself. Do all feelings have to be given a reason to be considered valid? Does every grip have to be labeled to be worthy of trust? It is very possible. Many of us live in relationships that are actually meaningless because they are too busy proving themselves. As for them, they never try. And in their insincerity to impress, they are the most honest. There is something disturbing and liberating about the way they exist with each other. The disturbance comes from our own inner urge to know, to be certain. But its freedom comes from the recognition that we don't need to know everything to respect it. They are living metaphors, a reminder that not everything that can't be explained needs to be doubted. Some things can just be lived, like poetry that doesn't need to be understood, just absorbed. Most interestingly, they never ask for support, never take advantage of attention. They let the relationship grow without interference, like a wildflower blooming in the cracks of city asphalt. And maybe that's why they're so strong, because anything that isn't built on the need to be liked will outlast any praise. Anything that's born of authenticity will find its own way to survive. Is it possible that their relationship will never have an end? Not because they'll be together forever physically, but because its imprint is embedded in the way they see the world, in their work, in the way they're silent. This kind of relationship doesn't seek sympathy. It doesn't ask for validation. But it will live on as long as there are people who believe that love can come in many forms and that the quietest forms are the most sincere. They don't need a stage to be important, because what they're living isn't a show. It's a deep presence, a constant presence without the need for a marker. And we, as unsolicited witnesses, learn from it. That sometimes we don't have to understand another person's love in order to appreciate it. That not every relationship needs a linear story to be special. We're taught that loyalty isn't about great sacrifice, but about not leaving, even when circumstances make things difficult. A loyalty that's not announced but always felt. Amidst the noise of the entertainment world, they're a whisper that never goes away. And in that whisper, there's a reality too soft to argue with, yet too strong to deny. They don't need to be recognized as a couple to be each other's saving souls. And if that's not the highest form of love, then what is? Their relationship holds a mirror for us. That perhaps what we seek is not someone who makes our lives perfect, but someone who makes our imperfections feel enough. And if someone can sit next to you for hours in silence without having to explain anything, and you feel safe, isn't that the truest form of home? They don't give us a love story in the conventional sense, but they give us something more valuable. The lesson that being present with your whole heart is the most revolutionary form of love in a world full of masks. And as time moves on, taking them to different distances, projects, and stages, one thing remains constant: the way they make space for each other in their increasingly crowded lives. There are no announcements, no symbols held high, just a rhythm that remains connected even if the beat is not always uniform. When the camera focuses on them in separate places, there are flashbacks that play in our heads. Not nostalgia for the past, but the conviction that something once so genuine never really went away. They no longer have to be seen together to feel each other. Even in absence, that presence can still be touched.